Some say ghosts don't exist, that what we see in the dark is only our minds playing tricks. But what if the tricks never stop? What if the shadows follow you home? Tonight you'll hear 3 terrifying ghost stories so haunting, you'll keep replaying them in your mind every time the lights go out. Watch to the end because each story is more disturbing than the last. Story 1. The crying woman in room 6. Paul had been on the road for 16 hours straight. His eyelids drooped and every mile marker blurred into the next. When he saw the flickering neon sign, Highland Motel, he decided it was good enough. Cheap, dirty, and forgettable. Exactly the kind of place truckers used when there was nowhere else to go. The man at the front desk slid him a key without making eye contact. Room 6, he muttered. His tone carried something uneasy, but Paul was too tired to care. Inside, the room was stale. The wallpaper peeled, the carpet was stiff with stains, and the air smelled like mold and old smoke. Paul kicked off his boots, dropped onto the bed and passed out. He woke at 2:14 a.m. At first he thought it was the pipes, a low rhythmic sound that almost mimicked a heartbeat, but then, underneath it, he heard something else, a woman's sobbing. Paul sat up, straining to listen. The crying was faint at first, then grew clearer. It wasn't coming from the walls or the next room. It was inside his room. His stomach tightened. He flicked on the lamp, but the bulb buzzed, sparked, and went black. The crying deepened, almost guttural, shaking with grief. "Hello," he whispered. The sound stopped. For a moment the silence was crushing, then something shifted in the dark, a dragging noise, slow and deliberate, like fingernails tracing the carpet. Paul bolted for the door. His hands fumbled at the lock. Behind him, the crying began again, louder this time, piercing wails that scraped against his nerves. Just as he twisted the knob, a voice whispered right against his ear. "Don't go." He froze, his heart slamming in his chest. When he spun around, the room was empty. Shadows pooled in the corners like they were breathing, expanding with every second. Paul ripped the door open and sprinted barefoot into the cold night. He didn't stop until he reached the lobby, his chest heaving. The clerk barely looked up. "Room 6 again?" he asked flatly. Paul's face went pale. "What the hell is in there?" The man sighed. "You weren't supposed to get that room. My mistake." "Why not?" The clerk's eyes flicked toward the dark hallway. "A woman checked in there years ago, never checked out. They found her in the bathtub. She slit her wrists. People say she's still waiting for someone to notice." Paul demanded another room, but sleep never came. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard that sobbing again. Sometimes faint, sometimes so close it seemed to vibrate inside his skull. When he left at dawn, his truck reeked faintly of mildew and copper, and as he drove, the sobbing followed him in the cab, until a whisper brushed his ear one final time. "Don't go." Story 2. The shadow at the crosswalk. The diner was emptying out as Lydia finished her shift. She tied her apron, pocketed her tips, and stepped into the damp night. It was past 3 a.m., the streets silent. She took her usual route, home past the old church, across the intersection, 3 blocks to her apartment. At the crosswalk, the streetlight flickered. That's when she saw him. A man, or what looked like one. Tall, motionless, his face buried in shadow. He stood across the street, angled toward her, though she couldn't see his eyes. The light turned green. Lydia hesitated. Something about him felt wrong, like he wasn't waiting to cross, but waiting for her. She forced herself forward, her shoes clicking against the asphalt. Halfway across, the light above fizzled and went black. In that split second of darkness, the man disappeared. Her chest tightened. She hurried the rest of the way, rushing the final blocks until she reached her apartment door. She locked it behind her, trembling. At 3:33 a.m. she woke up. Her room was icy. The streetlight outside her window flickered through thin curtains, and there beneath its glow he stood again, the same shadowed figure, still staring. Night after night, it continued, always at 3:33, always watching. She called the police, but when they arrived, the street was empty. They suggested stress, lack of sleep, hallucinations, but Lydia wasn't imagining it. She began sleeping with the lights on. Still, the temperature dropped each night at the same time, and always, when she peeked out, he was there. Finally, she snapped. On the 7th night, she stayed awake, waiting. When the clock ticked 3:33, she yanked the curtain aside. Nothing. She laughed, relief rushing through her. But when she turned back toward her bed, he was inside. She screamed, slamming the light switch. But the bulb only flickered weakly, revealing just enough to see his face or the absence of one. Where eyes and a mouth should be, there was only shadow. The next morning, Lydia's neighbor heard frantic knocking. She opened her door, finding Lydia pale and shaking. "I can't stay here," Lydia whispered. "He followed me inside." She moved out that day, but sometimes, when she wakes in the middle of the night, she refuses to look at the clock, because if it says 3:33, she knows he'll be waiting. Story 3. The passenger in the back seat. The road stretched endlessly, swallowed by night. Marcus had been driving too long, through country roads so desolate they felt outside of time. The radio gave nothing but static. The headlights cut through thick mist. That's when he saw her, a woman walking alone on the shoulder, barefoot, dressed in white. Her hair hung wet and heavy over her face. Marcus slowed, rolling down his window. "Need a ride?" She nodded once, stepping silently into the back seat. She smelled faintly of damp earth. "Where you headed?" he asked. Her voice was barely audible. "Home." He drove. The road seemed longer than before, like it twisted on itself. Every time he glanced at the mirror, her face shifted pale hollow, her eyes sunken deeper. Finally, he asked, "Where's home?" Slowly, her lips curved into a grin that didn't reach her eyes. "Behind you." Marcus whipped around. The seat was empty. His chest constricted. When he looked back at the mirror, she was there again, closer this time. Her face pressed almost against his, but only in the reflection. The doors locked. The engine revved. His foot wasn't even on the pedal. "Get out," he shouted. The car only accelerated. The road blurred past. His knuckles whitened on the wheel. The woman's face twisted into something monstrous, her mouth opening impossibly wide. The scream that filled the car wasn't human, it was layered, like 100 voices shrieking at once. Marcus lost control. The car veered, spinning into the trees. When the police found the wreck, the car was crumpled beyond recognition. Marcus's body was in the driver's seat. The passenger side seatbelt was buckled tight, but the seat was empty. Later, one of the officers swore he heard something while searching the wreckage, a faint whisper in the static of the radio. "Take me home." Story 4. The boy who wasn't alone at night. Ethan was 8 years old when the nightly visits began. At first it was subtle, the creak of his closet door at night, the soft shuffle of feet across his carpet, the whisper that didn't belong to his parents when he told his mom. She smiled. "It's just dreams, sweetheart. Everyone gets them." But Ethan knew better. Each night, when the house fell silent and his parents drifted off, he would lie awake, clutching his blanket, listening. The noises always came after midnight, sometimes a faint tapping against the window, though they lived on the second floor. Sometimes a dragging sound, as though something heavy was crawling across the room. One night, he saw it. At the foot of his bed, a figure crouched low, a child, but not like him. Its skin was gray and stretched thin, its mouth pulled into a wide, toothy grin, eyes black as ink. It didn't move, it only stared. Ethan screamed. His parents rushed in, flicking the lights. The thing was gone. His mother hugged him tight. His father checked the closet. "Nothing here, buddy. Just bad dreams." But Ethan saw the truth. In the far corner of the room, for a split second before the lights washed it away, the figure lingered, watching. The nights grew worse. Every time Ethan's parents slept, the child came back. Sometimes it sat in his chair. Sometimes it crouched beside his bed, inches from his face, breathing in ragged, shallow gasps. Once, Ethan dared to whisper, "What do you want?" The thing smiled wider, its teeth glinting in the moonlight. In a voice that crackled like broken glass, it whispered, "You." The next morning, Ethan begged to sleep with his parents. His father grew angry. "You're too old for this. There's nothing in your room." So that night, Ethan was alone again. The figure came earlier this time. Midnight exactly. Ethan lay frozen, pretending to sleep, as the thing crawled up onto his bed. Its fingers, too long and sharp, pressed against his blanket. The mattress dipped under its weight. He wanted to scream, but a cold hand clamped over his mouth. Its face leaned close, and in that same fractured voice, it whispered, "They don't hear me. Only you." The next morning, his parents found Ethan trembling under the bed, refusing to come out. They took him to a doctor. The word night terrors was tossed around. Medication, stress, overactive imagination. But at night, when the pills made him groggy, the thing stayed longer, stronger. It whispered stories in his ear about places underground where children were kept, about playing forever in the dark. One night, his parents heard him talking. They crept to his door, listening. Ethan's small voice whispered, "I don't want to go." A pause. Then a raspy voice answered back. His mother flung the door open. Ethan sat alone in bed, eyes wide, tears streaming. The shadows in the corner seemed to ripple, as if something had just slipped away. The last night came without warning. Ethan kissed his parents goodnight, begged them to leave his door open. They agreed, though his father muttered about childish fears. At 3 a.m., the house was silent. His parents slept deeply, and then silence broke. The mother woke first, sensing movement. A faint sound echoed down the hallway. The front door creaked open. She shook her husband awake. Together they rushed to Ethan's room. The bed was empty. The window was open, curtains swaying in the cold night air. Tiny footprints, wet and dark, led from the carpet to the sill, but there was something worse. Scratched into the wood of the frame, with marks too deep for a child's hand, were words that made her blood run cold. "He's mine now." They searched the woods. The police scoured the area. Ethan was never found. But neighbors sometimes reported strange noises at night. The sound of little feet running across floors, a child's giggle echoing in empty houses. And once, a family swore they saw a pale, black-eyed boy standing at the foot of their daughter's bed, smiling in the dark. 4 stories, 4 warnings. Which one will haunt you tonight? The crying woman in room 6, the faceless shadow, the passenger in the back seat, or the boy who wasn't alone at night? Tell me in the comments. And remember, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And join us again for more encounters that should never be remembered, but never, ever forgotten.